Everybody, Chuck Marone with Strong Towns. Someone had a question for me the other day. Should suburbs look to become self-sustaining towns, given how far they are away from city centers? And I think that it's a good idea. It's a good intention. I mean, the answer would be yes. But let's talk about really what's going on here. Because one of the impacts of the suburban experiment on city centers is that they try to change their DNA. Cities have a fundamental DNA that they mature with in the pre-Great Depression pattern. You see neighborhoods, I mean, we call it today walkable neighborhoods. The reality is they're just neighborhoods. You look around for thousands of years, and this is how we built cities. The further in North America, the further north and east you go, the more mature those cities were when we hit the Great Depression and we started this new experiment after World War II. And so those places have city centers that are largely coherent. But look what we did to them. We ran highways through the middle of them. We tore down lots of buildings. We tried to make into parking lots. We tried to, in a sense, alter their DNA, and it was really, really painful. It had really bad consequences. We're still dealing with those consequences today, right? You take a place that was designed to be walkable, and you impose an auto-oriented infrastructure on it, and you're literally like changing its DNA. Doesn't work. It's like a freak show. Okay, go out to the suburbs now. There are some, streetcar suburbs where you come in on a streetcar and then you get there and it's nice and walkable and it works. Those places, adapting them, I mean, largely that's already begun. They're some of the hottest places, real estate-wise in the country. They're some of the most desirable places. But the places that were truly like post-World War II, right? You start with the 1950s and 60s ranch homes. You get in the 70s and 80s, these split entry kind of places, the McMansion phase. You look at all this stuff. It's not only designed to be auto-oriented. I mean, its DNA is coded that way. Its entire way of existing is that way. And so, well, I think it would be really nice to change the DNA of those places, make them walkable, make them financially more productive and resilient. Understand what you're talking about. It's not like a casual thing, right? It's not like you're making modest modifications. You're literally changing the structure of the community. You're changing its DNA. You're transforming it into something else. You can do that. That can be done, but it won't be done easily. And it won't be done without like intense commitment, right? Now, I think that the fate of the suburbs is an interesting question. And I know that wasn't the question, but I think maybe it's worth exploring that a little bit to kind of get your mind wrapped around what's going to happen to our suburbs. I wrote in Strong Towns, A Bottom-Up Revolution, that there's really three kind of alternatives for the suburbs. One, they're either going to kind of remake themselves, and I think remake themselves with places that, the whole city might not adapt its DNA. There might be neighborhoods within them that do. There might be neighborhoods where they say, hey, we want corner stores. Hey, we want more buildings. We want more units. We want more stuff. And I think those places will do okay. They will comparatively do fine. I'll say, we see this a lot in immigrant communities, places where they come from, walkable DNA, where they don't have the affluence to have the burn rate that we do here in North America, financial burn rate. They tend to build in ways that minimize expenses, maximize resources, maximize benefit. And so you see that a lot in immigrant communities. I'm kind of optimistic about these places. Second, I think a lot of these will just become our new version of slums. We, as distasteful as it is, and I think it is distasteful, cities have historically been wealthy people surrounded by poor people. We spent trillions of dollars in North America to invert that pattern. But now that we have, in a sense, reached the end of that Ponzi scheme, we've outgrown our capacity to sustain that. Can't find any new suckers to take over for the old. You see us reverting to form, right? You see city centers starting to become occupied again. The momentum is there. The property value appreciation is there. And I think if we look out a couple decades, there will be pockets of suburbs, just like there were, estates of the gentry back in the day. There will be pockets of suburbs that are still around and still viable to some degree. For the most part, most of this will be turned into housing for poor people. And that is going to be horrific. You think it was bad when we walked away from poor people in the middle of the cities, at least those neighborhoods were coherent. Try locking a whole bunch of poor people in places designed for, consumptive burning of money, and it's just not going to work very well. This leads me to the third thing that I think will happen. I think there's going to be an entirely new industry of salvage, suburban salvage. The idea that we're going to go out and, take as much of those unwanted, rotting buildings and reuse them to some degree. Which of these fixtures can be reused? Can we get the wiring out? Can we get the plumbing out? Can these appliances be recycled? Can this, wood have some other life besides just rotting here in place? I think that we will probably figure out how to do that at scale, and that will be a kind of industry. And we'll see a lot of the suburbs, which really I've described as slash and burn city building, right? They weren't designed to be there for a long, long time. They'll reach kind of their natural end and conclusion. Not a happy thought. I used to live in a place where I had to drive everywhere on a 5-acre lot out in the woods. When I was a young engineer, my wife and I found this lot, and that's where we built our dream house, and I was going to be there forever. Then I came to this realization, and I couldn't do it anymore. I had to get someplace that made more sense. And so now I'm walking to work. It's a very nice walk in a nice, enjoyable neighborhood. If gas becomes $8 a gallon, I don't care. It doesn't affect me. Take care, everybody.